Danny. Great to see you here today.
Good to see you too. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. I'm very well. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you on our series of talking to the artists. So first of all, just tell us who you are, where you come from, and what kind of artist are you? What kind of art do you bring on?
So my name is Danny Flaherty. I come from New Jersey in the United States of America. I come from a small town in the north part of New Jersey, and yeah, I grew up. I was raised here. Still live here. I'm an actor, a photographer, a musician. Yeah, so I do mostly all of it, and I have fun doing it. So.
Great. Okay, and we're going to have a look at some of your work in a second, so I can't wait for that. So let me ask you now about your workspace now. So clearly you do a lot of different things, and I guess all the world's a stage, so your kind of workplace on that can be everywhere. But tell us a little bit about your you know how your acting environment and your photography environment and how you get your inspiration.
Well, so my work stage, I guess in the acting world, it's kind of everywhere. I really love going to sit in a coffee shop, people watch, and when I'm practicing and performing, my space is a little bit different. I actually like to be by myself in a room and kind of just pace around, and that's my like training space, I guess. But my
Right.
workspace where I go to learn is just the world around me and the people around me and seeing the true stories and the true aneurysms of people, trying to copy that in my work, picking from places all around. And in photography, it's kind of the same way. You go out and you look at the world around you and you just try to anything that really catches your eye or your mind, you try to incorporate that into your work and start snapping away.
Yeah. Fantastic. And just on that point there about when you mentioned your training, because that was actually occurring to me. So what do you obviously when you're out and about doing your roles, you're on whatever location is for the job. But
Mhm.
when you're practicing, as you say, whether it's for a specific role or just in general, is that what sort of things do you do there?
So if I'm practicing for like an audition, I kind of do the thing where I sit, I read the lines over and over and over and over, and then I get up and I start playing in the space. So once I have my lines a little bit set in my head, it probably takes a little bit, and there's no tricks there. You just gotta go over and over and over, until
Right.
they're in there.
Yeah.
And I just like I dance around my room. I do these things. Woo, I pump myself up, and I just try to really feel like I'm inside of that person's mind and body, and I try to hide myself away in a little room, and I just talk to myself like a crazy person. If anyone saw me, they'd probably think I was a mental case,
You're doing
But
your great, and that gets you in your and that gets your that gets you in the zone of
yeah, it gets me in the zone. It puts me in that place just to just be by myself and really focus on it. And then, being able to then go and perform and do it, I feel like I'm ready and I just try to live in that space as much as possible for whatever the role, provides.
fantastic. Right, well, we'll come to some of your work in a moment, which is very exciting. Some of your acting work in a moment, but look some of your photography at the moment. So you've sent me a couple of pieces which which describe you as an artist. So this one was very atmospheric when I saw it. So
Yeah,
so talk me
so
through
I
this.
really like taking a lot of more landscape stuff
Hmm.
than I do taking pictures of people, but when they mix together, it's great, which you'll see in a second. But this is a very gloomy day. I saw the fog rising out from the back there, and it just really caught my eye. So I really it's almost like it's its own world in there, and I kind of like capturing photos that bring you into a space that you don't normally see, and you can kind of imagine your own world inside of them. And these were one of those moments for me, which, this was up in Maine, actually, in Acadia National Park.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was just a very gloomy day, and it felt so otherworldly and alien to me. And I just had to, I was actually sitting on a rock getting my butt all wet for like a good 5 minutes until I got it perfectly aligned.
right,
I was trying to, I had no
right.
tripod or anything.
Looking for the exact swirl of fog that captures the moment. So
Yeah, exactly.
and do you when you're shooting this, are you on a tripod or are you just holding it in your hand and just waiting for the?
No, I usually rarely carry a tripod with me. I only usually carry a tripod with me if I'm doing video, but yeah, I like freehanding photography, and that's why I was saying it took me so long. I didn't have a tripod to really set it up, so
Mm.
I was like balancing on this rock, just trying to just like try to get everything lined up.
For the,
It's still a little crooked in my eyes, but it gives it some character, and I like that.
it
So
is, yeah. And for me, yeah, well, it is very dramatic when you see it. When I first saw it, it does get it tells a story straight away. You're thinking, oh, you can see the atmosphere. I can't work out if it's early morning or mid morning or and
yeah,
and the
exactly. And that was
reflections.
actually in the middle of the day,
Was
but
it?
yeah, it looks like it's like 5 a.m. or it could be the end of the night,
Yeah,
right before the sun goes down.
yeah. And it's also not clear that whether it's just a stream, a creek going through some fields, or whether those are reeds on a bit larger pond. It could be. It's not clear
Yeah,
from there.
I kind of cheated that way. So I like the fact that it kind of does look like a river going through this big field,
Yeah,
but in fact, it's just kind of the tip of a pond right
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. No, it's
And
great.
that's just the pathway back there. Yeah.
It is, and again, lovely reflections in there. So yeah, so that's what you're now. And as you say, but you also have given us then a very different one as well, which
Yeah, it's very different. So this is what I mean by just going out and seeing things that I enjoy.
yeah,
And this man here, he had two goats. His wife is off camera actually with another goat. And I was talking to him, and they're his house goats, and they treat them like dogs, and they
yeah,
live in the house. And it was just so interesting. I haven't seen that, you know. And I mean, it's just a guy with a goat, So
yeah,
I love the landscape of it. I love how he's just sitting in the corner with his goat. This was actually at an old army fort in Maine. Yeah, that's the fort up there,
hmm
and behind me is the ocean, and it has some cannons to the left that aren't on camera. But I just like the juxtaposition of this tiny guy with his goat and this huge building to the left of him. I don't know. There was something about it.
it
It
is.
almost reminds me of like I wanted to say there's this movie like Napoleon Dynamite, and it's very like nerdy, but they do a lot of wide shots like this kind of, and it reminded me of that. And I just, yeah, I turned around, I saw him feeding the goat, and I just started snapping away.
Yeah, it does. And again, it's I guess the title of the piece would have to include, it would have to be man and goat or something, because when I first looked at it, I thought it was a dog. It could be a large dog. So
Yeah, and
it's
then well, that's why in my exhibit, like the next picture after this one in the book that I did for the exhibit,
yeah,
is actually a close up of the goat,
right,
so you
great.
can kind of see, yeah, yeah. But
So we can see that story unfold. Yeah, and that is an unusual building there, isn't it? So that's a fort, is it, in the background?
yeah, they kind of rebuilt it up top a little bit, as you can see, but that is the original structure.
Yeah,
And yeah, I forget what the name of the fort was. We were just driving
yeah,
past and we decided to stop because it was, on the left of the road, it said fort whatever. And so we just stopped in and yeah. But
fantastic.
yeah, we're not sure what fort it is.
Yeah. And we can see some of the. Obviously, I've heard about the fall in up in New England is the place to be. You can still the leaves haven't quite turned there in the background there, but there are a couple of trees there starting to
Here
turn.
they hadn't, but when I was up in Acadia, the leaves have turned a lot more. And, it's something I've always wanted to go up and take pictures up there when the leaves change. And I
Yeah,
never had the chance to go up during a good time. And this time when I went up, I went to visit my girlfriend's sister, and a lot of the leaves up by the park were beautiful, all changing. But the ones closer to where we were staying weren't
yeah,
changing as much.
yeah.
But so I got some good stuff, some not good stuff. But
Fantastic,
I got
fantastic.
to see it finally,
Yes,
a little bit of the changing. It was beautiful. It was very beautiful. The colors
very
were.
famous. Yeah. So great. Okay, so let's now move on to your upcoming piece. So tell us about this then. So this is a very exciting to be released very shortly on Netflix, I believe.
Yeah, it's actually this Friday, October 16th. It's going to be out on Netflix. It was a film we shot 3 weeks in Chicago, and then we actually shot the rest in New Jersey, not too far from actually where I live.
Hmm.
Um, so, excuse me. Yeah, what can I say? What can I tell you about this? This is a piece about the Chicago riots in 1968 at the Democratic National Convention, and these 7 men went to trial for inciting a riot across state lines. And the whole movie is just about the trial and the crazy judge, and it's based on a true story. And mostly everything in the film actually happened in real life. And I didn't know anything about this
Mm.
until I started auditioning for this film. And it's something they don't really teach you in high school or even in college. I guess if you go to law school, they do because they teach you about the trial.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never heard about it before, and so I started looking into it, and it's very, very interesting, everything that happened. It's funny because a year ago when we were filming this, we weren't sure people were going to, relate to it or watch it because it's just a story from a while ago, about, the Democratic National Convention and the court drama, and now you see today just so happens that, things are the same and it correlates directly with what's happening today.
Yeah.
So it's very wild. The timing is crazy. And he wanted to get it out before the election, Aaron Sorkin, the director. But yeah, he had no clue it would be this impactful now
Yeah.
while we were filming. He thought that no one would even probably see it, honestly.
Wow.
So
That's and as you say, just for the times, and obviously shot. So it was shot about a year ago, obviously very pre-corona then.
yeah, exactly. So we shot this all pre-corona. We shot last October is when
Yeah.
we started shooting.
Yeah.
So it's been a full year basically, and we shot up until December. I want to say it was like December 8th,
Yeah.
I think was our last day. So yeah, it was all pre-COVID, and we never knew any of this crazy stuff was
No.
going to go down, how the world is today. But
Yeah.
but
Well, that's
yeah, it's really interesting to see the correlation between the riot scenes in here and the stuff we've been seeing on the media here in America, in the States, and yeah, it's wild.
and yeah, very timely and just before the election, and yeah, so it's great to. Well, I'll certainly be. Well, hopefully it'll be on a UK Netflix release. They don't always line them up, but I will go
Yeah,
check.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it is. I know it's getting released here on Friday, but I don't
Yeah.
know if the
Yeah,
UK
we'll
is the
check
same.
the hopefully it is. We'll check the schedules. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's that's great. So let's um let's just talk for a little bit about. Just tell me a little bit about what attracted you and what attracts you about the Artocalypse.
What attracts me is the sense of community that it brings for everyone involved. It's bringing a place where people can not just gather and show off their artwork, but critique each other, help each other, provide a platform for everyone to just be themselves, show off their work, and maybe, make friends in the process, show off your exhibits to people that maybe would have never seen it before. I mean, just think about us. I'm here in the States and I'm talking to you in the UK. I mean, it's
Yeah,
amazing,
it's great.
Um, yeah, you have things like Facebook and stuff like that where you can show off your art or Reddit, but there's not the sense of community that I feel like our apocalypse is bringing, which is more of a place to collaborate and and especially with the exhibits, I think it's great. It's a great platform. It's so easy to get in touch with someone, just to talk to someone if you would like to, and it's so easy to not get in touch with someone if you don't want to.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like you can, it's great in both ways. And to me, I just think it's a very brilliant idea, and you know, any way to bring artists together is a great idea in my opinion. So if there's any way to do it, go full force. And that's what you're doing here. And you guys are really making this something very special. And I can't wait to see the future of it.
great. Okay, and we're looking forward to it as well. It's going to be fantastic. We've got our first exhibition in a week or so that you'll be exhibiting at as well, and hopefully we'll have many more after that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. I hope so. I hope we do. Yeah. I hope
Great.
you guys do. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking to us this evening, Danny, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. Take care.
Charlotte, great to be with you this afternoon.
Hi, you too.
Great.
Yeah.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Whereabouts are you from, and what kind of artist are you?
Cool. So I'm Charlotte. I'm a postgraduate bioscientist at Durham University. I'm originally from kind of North Manchester. And my art is kind of it's quite abstract. So it marries up science, imagination, um, and kind of realism as well, because something that I'm kind of passionate about in kind of my expression of like in my art and creativity is marrying up kind of the tangible and like the intangible. So marrying up kind of the I don't know how to describe it. Imagination,
Yeah.
which is intangible, versus kind of real life and what could be, within scientific limitations, stuff like that, which is therefore, the tangible. So yeah, I
In the
quite
natural
like
world.
exploring that.
Yeah, and there's a natural link. So a lot of art perhaps doesn't have any bounds in the natural world, but science
Yeah,
does have boundaries in the natural world. We're trying to push the boundaries in the natural world, I guess.
yeah,
And I think you can cross over the two as well. There's an art of science as well.
yeah, absolutely.
So interesting. I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody who was a product designer, and we were talking about the difference between design and art, which is a similar sort of conversation where really design comes around to be function and form, over art, which perhaps doesn't have those boundaries. So
Yeah.
great. Okay. Well, we can certainly see by looking at some of your art that we've seen that comes through. You've got two very different pieces for us today. So let's have a look at the first one, and this is very dramatic. So when I first look at this, it seems quite a stark view of perhaps the future or perhaps the world. I'm looking at the reflection is quite striking to start with, the little bit of colour on the top and the reflection through, and then obviously the animal in the middle who doesn't look kind of happy at his current situation, and the bare trees there. So tell me what was inspired you about this piece, and put that together.
So this kind of came from very much kind of imagination. This is kind of one end of the spectrum of kind of what I produce. And it was just inspired basically by kind of the increased need for conservation and to make sure that we are kind of looking after our world. And I was wanting to do the reflection actually came as an afterthought. The original piece was just the top bit. And I wanted to kind of show kind of metaphorically the whole of nature being in the kind of the primate, and also reflect that kind of we are primates too. Sometimes, we forget we are just kind of highly evolved primates, that, actually killed off the rest of our kind of members of our genus, just so that, Homo sapiens was left.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just kind of we've got people, looking at what we've done and what we've done to the animal and what we've done to the environment. And then there's kind of a question in it as well. And then the reflection came from playing around with a bit of digital art, which I've got into recently, inverting the colours and kind of putting an effect on it. And I think it looks quite almost kind of Tron-like, so futuristic, and I thought it looked quite cool, basically.
It is. Yeah, it's fun. So what was the original? So was the reflection something that you added in after you created the original piece?
Yeah, so originally, so I basically just drew the top half on my on a kind of a tablet which plugs into my computer.
Yeah.
And then basically flipped it, inverted it, and then kind of stuck them together.
Wow.
So they are absolute kind of reflections
Mirror.
of each.
Yeah. And
I've not kind of drawn something else.
digital art gives you so much flexibility like that.
Oh,
There's
it's
been
amazing.
so
It's
many
amazing.
amazing creations that I've seen
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks. So that's taken from your, and there's obviously some science, I guess, coming through that. Perhaps some warnings about not listening to scientists. Perhaps, I don't know, coming through.
Yeah, it's kind of a warning piece because the colours that I chose as well are quite muted but kind of brooding. because as a kind of a young scientist, a lot of the things that I'm seeing and being limited by are due to kind of climate change and conservation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the increased need for it, as we go through to the future.
That's right. So you're putting that message. Good. Okay. Now this piece, of course, when I first looked at this, I think this more directly reflects your scientific passions as well. So when I look at this, first of all, obviously I see something that reminds me very much of cells and life, really, and then perhaps a celebration of that. So tell me a little bit about this piece.
So this is called SOUS2 because it's a cell, and it's one of my cells that I've grown in my lab, and it's called SOUS2. So it's a osteosarcoma. So it's a bone cancer cell, grown from primarily kind of derived from a young 11-year-old girl. And part of the reason why I wanted to make it to art is because these are so frequently used in scientific research. But when you look at them down microscope, and it was a really powerful microscope that I used, you can just see the beauty of it. Yeah. It's taken on a laser scanning confocal, which is kind of a big, yeah. big boy microscope. And it's one cell, and I've just kind of duplicated it 3 times, and then kind of put different colors kind of on it, which is quite useful because the microscope false colors the images anyway. So when you actually kind of mess around with the colors, it actually looks really effective.
It brings it to life. So what we're looking at here is the actual structure of the cell, and then you've put your the colouring onto it. This is what you would see through the microscope, is it?
Yeah, so that's kind of exactly what I see. The big kind of blob in the center is the nucleus, so that's where all the kind of DNA is kept. The green, they are green in the bottom, bottom right, which is the original image actually. Yeah. The bottom right is a cytoskeleton network, so it's where it's like the highways of the cell, kind of the motorways, stuff like that. And then the red is kind of delivery packages of like the proteins. So it's a protein which kind of goes around checking bits of the cell are working properly. Yeah. And that's why you've got that really nice ring kind of around what we would call the kind of cell membrane. Yeah. So it's a really good way to see the kind of intracellular structures, but also it kind of reminded me of the galaxy. So or a galaxy, which is why I've put kind of the stars behind it.
Yeah, and I guess that brings together the very small and the very large in
absolutely
two pieces of science and bringing them together. So
yeah,
and what a great way to communicate not just the art and get people engaged in the picture for its own sake, but also there's a way to communicate, like you just have to be there about something about cell structure. So people could do a little bit of learning if they don't know about the biology behind it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's not something that many people will be able to see. So I think by making art is primarily to be looked at, and by making it into art, I am communicating this cool cell stuff, which I find really interesting, and I'm really cool. I'm kind of able to show it to people in an interesting, exciting way.
That's great.
Hopefully.
That certainly is, yeah. And as you say, that's a really good point. We don't often there's a lot of art in things we don't often get to see in these big industrial behind the scenes research and
absolutely.
So being able to bring that out is one of the great aims for our exhibition, really. So great. So tell me a little bit about what attracted you and attracts you about the Artocalypse.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's just an amazing community. I primarily am not an artist, but I am quite creative in what I like to do, and I haven't actually had a time or a chance to explore that creativity. So this was an ideal community for me to get involved with. And ever since the get-go, everyone's just been really passionate, really, really kind of enthused to help other people kind of achieve be able to express themselves in art, B, be able to collaborate with others to kind of express like a wider kind of idea, and C, just to get to know people. It seemed like a really nice kind of environment, but also you've got people from all across the globe. Like there's people from, you know, Turkey, America, me from Manchester getting involved. Like it's great. It's a really, really nice community.
There has been, and there has been a kind of Cambrian explosion of creativity in the last 2 weeks, hasn't there? Which we
Absolutely, yeah.
which we'll
It's
see
the
result
final
of.
push, isn't
The
it?
final push, yeah, which we will see the result of in the exhibition shortly. So can't wait for everyone to see that. And we've also got some exclusive, not least from yourself as well. You're involved in at least 2 collaborations that I've been counting with others. So fantastic. So great. Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon, Charlotte. That's been fantastic, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Bye.